Got my notes. I've got my coffee. I felt the need to talk about this because I was talking with a friend earlier about this feeling and this thinking, this mindset that I get where I say, when I get this, then I'll finally feel like enough. Whether that is when I get the promotion, the apartment, the new city, the number on the scale, whatever it is, you work for it, you planned, you hustled, you got it, and then you felt like enough for like a week. And then suddenly you're back on this treadmill with this new carrot or your goal dangling in front of you, running as fast as you can, wondering why nothing ever lands. Is that familiar? I hope I'm not alone in that because I am the queen of this feeling. And learning that there's actually a scientific name for what you're feeling. It's called the arrival fallacy, and it's not a personal flaw. It's literally how your brain is wired. Doesn't that feel good to hear that? But here's what I find nobody's really talking about. There's a version of arrival fallacy that has nothing to do with achievement, and it has everything to do with yourself. And that's the one that keeps you kind of stuck because there is no finish line, no milestone to check off. It's just a moving target made entirely of your own becoming. And here is the cruelest part about all of this, is that all the optimizing, striving, chasing, it doesn't find that highest version of you. It just kind of buries you. You cannot hustle your way to knowing who you are. Trust me, I have tried. But what I want to share with you are the 3 things that helped me break that kind of arrival fallacy loop and actually start feeling like enough in the life that I'm already living. Sip first. Coffee break first. I'm drinking a lavender latte, which was just made with like instant coffee. Yeah, instant coffee. Look how like foamy it is. Can you see that? Okay. So, I mentioned I spent years in this win-then loop. When I get this job, then I'll feel settled. When I move here, then my real life begins. And I want to walk you through it because I think you'll recognize yourself somewhere in maybe one of my stories. At 15, I was obsessed with the Gilmore Girls. My mom and I watched it constantly. I grew up with a single mother. We were very much Lorelai and Rory. But to me, Lorelai was just the epitome, the pedestal of what a dream life could be. She had wit. She was fun. She had the life. I decided that was it. That is what I want. So I had planned to study hospitality. I had planned to buy a Mini Cooper because I thought they were cute. I wanted to run a boutique hotel. And that was my first taste in planning the perfect life. And it was intoxicating. I mean, I had spreadsheets. I did research. It was wild. But what I didn't realize right then and there is that I was training myself to live in the preparation, the chase. I was focused on that dopamine hit. But here's the really funny thing. At 24, I actually ended up working at a hostel on the Isle of Skye, objectively the most beautiful place in the world. Fight me on that. I will win. There I was doing the thing. And I spent that whole time telling myself that it didn't count because it wasn't permanent, because it didn't look exactly like how I envisioned. And my brain had already moved the goalposts before I had even arrived. I was labeling the experience almost as a failure before they were even over. And the cycle continued. See, at 24, I had moved to Scotland for my master's. Living abroad, going to this university had been a dream of mine since high school that I couldn't believe I was doing. I actually legitimately wrote a note to my future self when I was in high school English that mentioned I had gone and got my master's at the University of Glasgow. And there I was doing it. But because I couldn't make it permanent, damn you visas, I labeled it as a failure before I even left. It was not a failure. At 31, I wanted to live by the coast, and I did. Spent a month in New England working remotely. Exactly what I said I was always going to do someday. I was literally living the dream, having the best time of my life. And then I came home, and that feeling of enoughness of living my dream life vanished because I had been chasing the wrong question the whole time. Here's the thing. I had the hostel. I had Scotland. I had the coast. These were things I had literally written on my list as dreams. And I I dismissed every single one of them, either because they didn't look exactly right or because my brain had already moved on to the next goal before I arrived. And that is not a discipline problem. That is not a gratitude problem. That is the hedonic treadmill doing its work. So I want to share 3 lessons with you that would have saved me all of this heartache and grief and actually get to the root of the issue. So these lessons, God, if I had known them earlier, it would have saved me so much time. And if you keep seeing me glancing down, it's because I have some notes up here and this is important. So I want to make sure I get it right for you. So lesson number 1, you need to understand what your brain is actually doing. It is so simple, but it's so impactful. So actually, let me put my hair up first so we can really get into this. So I want to talk about like neurologically what is happening, because once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. So your brain runs on dopamine. You've heard that before. But this is what most people don't know about dopamine, is that it's not a satisfaction chemical. It's actually kind of like a seeking chemical. It spikes in the pursuit of the goal, not the reward itself. So it means that the moment you get the thing, your dopamine levels kind of drop or return to baseline. And your brain immediately starts scanning for the next target because it loved that dopamine chase. And that's what's called hedonic adaptation. Your brain's extraordinary ability to normalize fast. That promotion, the apartment, the trip that you've taken, it spikes, levels out, and on to the next. You are not ungrateful, okay? You're not broken. You're like a software. It's like your brain is a software. Like you're running a software that was generally never designed to make you feel like enough. So you are not the problem. That is lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, stop optimizing the 10%. This is where it gets really practical. There was a study done that broke down happiness into 50, 40, and 10%. 50% is your baseline happiness. That's your genetics. It's your set point. It's your set point, and no matter what happens, good or bad, that's just, you can't fight your genetics sometimes. Only about 10% of your happiness comes from life circumstances. Your job, your income, your city, your relationship status. That's literally the stuff, though, that we spend 90% of our time chasing. Did I get you there? I got myself there. That other 40%, those are your daily intentional choices. That's what you practice, what you notice, how you spend your ordinary Tuesday. That's where you actually have the power to impact your happiness the most. And that's when the arrival fallacy loses its grip. Not when you achieve more, but when you refocus your intention. That is when you will find happiness. When you focus on what you give meaning, how you spend your days, the relationships that you foster, when you practice gratitude, that has more of a lasting impact on your happiness. That 10% of life circumstances, that just keeps you chasing that dopamine hit. And remember what we just learned about that. And last time I checked, 10%, that is so much more less than 40%. I mean, come on. And the last, which is arguably the most easy to say, but the hardest, I think, to put into practice, is asking yourself the right question. You've been asking, am I doing enough? When you should be asking, is this even mine? I'm going to let you sit with that for a moment. Because that shift from measuring output to questioning the metric itself is where actual change happens. Because it interrupts that loop of when I get this, then I'll be happy, da 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 da. It makes you look at what you've been chasing and whether you chose it. And my guess is you didn't choose it, because social media, societal pressures, consumerism, all of these things are this machine telling you what your dream is supposed to look like. All of that stuff makes you just wonder whether it was the right thing to want. See how important this is? And I don't know if you can hear the lawnmower going. It's like the universe doesn't want me to tell you this. I couldn't think my way into living. I had to notice my way into it. I had to stop, look around at what was already here, and ask, what would it mean if I called this all enough? What is my dream life? And where am I living it right here, right now, that I can label as enough? See, I want a big ass garden in my dream life, okay? I want a huge backyard with my garden that's living by the coast. Well, currently have 3 small garden beds. That's enough. It may not look exactly like I pictured it, this huge big thing, but it wasn't actually the garden that I wanted. It was the tending to something, it was the growing, it was spending time outside. I'm doing that. That's enough. That is my dream life right here, right now. And wouldn't you know, that is also the 40%, is my daily intentional choices. How I'm choosing to spend my day, what I'm noticing, and what I am giving meaning to. That garden is everything to me. But if I only focus 10% on my life circumstances of saying, I will be living the dream when I live in this cute little coastal house with a big garden in the backyard, then I would never be happy. I would always be chasing that dopamine hit and chasing that moment, and I would just be stuck in this constant loop. But I'm asking, is this even mine? Do I want this garden? What is it about this garden that I want? And it's getting to spend time outside. It's getting to play in the garden with the dirt and nurture something and grow and learn and meet other people and grow so much food that I have to give it to my neighbors. That 40% of daily intentional choices, that is the most important thing. Not the life circumstances, it's the noticing. And the noticing starts with one simple question. Is this even mine?